welcome to Planet the Klimates, episode number 1. Planet the Klimates is a community-organized show to bring you the latest information and insight into the KlimaDao ecosystem. KlimaDao is a carbon credit-backed blockchain protocol on Polygon that leverages market dynamics to incentivize the reduction of atmospheric carbon at scale to help accelerate our collective efforts at combating anthropogenic climate change. Now, Klima does this by capturing large reserves of tokenized carbon offset credits to create a sustained upward pressure on price, which enables an increasingly profitable alternative to the exploitation of natural resources. Now, all of this sits at the intersection of cryptocurrency, game theory, and the carbon credit market. So there's no shortage of great stuff for us to talk about here on the show. My name is Phaedrus. I'm your Planet the Klimates host. Each episode, I'll be joined by my good friends and co-hosts DiamondHands, Klima, and Reg, who are here with me today, and we'll discuss the latest Klima news, drop some occasional alpha, and connect you with the biggest and brightest names currently exploring this exciting space. DiamondHands and Reg, why don't you take a minute and tell us a little bit about yourself and what drew you to Klima?
Hey guys, DiamondHands here. Well, for me, I started investing in Olympus with my friends, and we first heard about Klima during one of their office hours. So when the Discord of Klima went up, we went in and we dived deep into the docs and really loved what's the vision of Klima, right, to fight climate change. And I was really lucky to be part of the IDO offering. I took a leap of faith, and here I am today to be doing this show with you guys to share my journey from start, from someone who has been in crypto for 4-5 months, and to learn with you guys as well.
Excellent. How about you, Reg?
Yeah, so in real life, I'm a doctor specializing in medical oncology and hematology. I've been in practice for about 10 years and was drawn into crypto late last year. An old friend of mine is an ETH maxi, so he got me on the right track early on, helped me avoid some of the common pitfalls. Kind of got me to where I am now, I think. In terms of climate, I deeply care about preserving healthy ecosystems, seeing us transition as quickly as possible to a sustainable way of life, as a global civilization. And, I understood the Klima model because I'd already kind of done a deep dive into the Olympus mechanics, and I immediately saw the potential to actually play a positive role in this global transition towards a sustainable future. So I'm excited to be here, and I'm just so happy that I can contribute in any small way I can.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, definitely great to have both DiamondHands and Reg on the team here. It gives me the confidence that I've got a great crew here on the podcast. And definitely like you, Reg, I'm a newcomer to the crypto world myself too. I think just in terms of my background, I kind of describe myself as an obsessive generalist. I do have a doctoral degree in behavioral economics, and I've worked a career that's included sustainable economic development, that, the work to lower your carbon footprint while growing economically is definitely a focus of mine too. I know it's a massive challenge, and that's a huge part of why Klima drew my attention right away. I discovered NFTs early in 2021 this year, and I'm also a hobbyist photographer, and I was tempted to mint some of my own creations as NFTs, but reluctant because the perceptions around that carbon footprint. And then just randomly over this last summer too, I was exploring some play-to-earn crypto gaming projects when I did get a random Discord invite and a mention about this little project that was getting ready to launch and trying to tackle climate change. So that got my attention pretty quickly, that not only could we have, crypto projects that are less carbon intense or have a lower footprint, but actually actively draw carbon out of the atmosphere and actively be a part of the solution. And I think it was the Bankless interview with Klima's core founders that really sealed the deal, giving me a chance to hear from the founders themselves, and that timing couldn't have been better. I was lucky enough, well, it could have been better. If I was at the IDO stage, that would have been better. I was lucky enough indeed to get in on the LBP stage at the Copper launch. But yeah, how about enough about your hosts here? Let's get this show kicked off right, and we'll introduce you to our guest for this first inaugural episode of Planet the Klimates, Asfi. Asfi is our guest on this inaugural Planet the Klimates podcast. Some of you may know him from the Olympus community as a frequent host on his own Twitter spaces, where he's been learning ferociously and sharing knowledge about this new era of decentralized finance and becoming completely immersed like so many of us. Asfi is an entrepreneur and philanthropist who's been a big believer in reducing inequality, working to make public goods available to everyone. It's no surprise that he's now taking the crypto world by storm and helping take the space to the next level. In his pre-crypto days, he helped build a cellular tower sharing company that was acquired by E.co, which is an Asia-Pacific telecom tower company, in 2017, and then pursued his vision of bringing affordable high-speed wireless internet to rural America by using existing infrastructure when he founded Net Equity Networks. Earlier this year, while researching a financial solution to help him with his goals, he stumbled across OlympusDAO, and now is a fierce proponent of the Olympus protocol as well as KlimaDao. So, Asfi, it's a great pleasure to have you on our inaugural podcast, kicking things off here. Tell us a little bit about your story, and how did you go from cellular towers and broadband for all to OlympusDAO?
Man, thank you. I mean, that's, I think, the best introduction anyone's ever done for me. So thank you for that. I really appreciate it. How it happened, how did I get to Olympus? So what happened was the main project Net Equity was working on was actually a partnership with Facebook, where Facebook has been building this robot that will wrap optical fiber on electrical power lines. And what happened was that this project ran into some delays due to COVID, and timelines got pushed out. As that happened, I started wondering, what else is out there? What are other solutions out there? And I stumbled upon this really neat solution called Althea Networks. They found a way to transform a home router into a crypto wallet and basically run a internet service on a crypto backend. Okay. And I found their solution to be really powerful because of the transparency that it created in a telecom network or an internet service network. And this is all happening a few months ago, like earlier this year. So, I mean, earlier this year, I was a total crypto noob. I did not know anything about crypto or the fact that people are anon. I did not know any of that. I was just like heads down in internet for all. And when I saw the potential of Althea, and I did a partnership with them, and we started building a network in rural Nebraska, I started wondering if there could be a currency, or if there was someone thinking about a non-pegged and asset-backed currency. And so why that question? It's very personal. I'm Pakistani, born and raised there. Dad's in Pakistan. My father's retired. And I've seen, monetary policy in the West, it's monetary policy in the West has eroded purchasing power in the West as well, but it has eroded purchasing power at a disproportionately faster rate in developing countries like Pakistan. And so, that was kind of always a bug for me that, hey, could there be a currency that maintained purchasing power over time? And so I was searching for that. I was searching for different terms in Google when I found the docs of OlympusDAO. Oh yeah, and that was a pretty kind of a boom moment for me, being like, oh my god, this is real. This is happening. It was a lightning bolt moment because I kept staring at the equations and I couldn't believe that it would work, because it worked, but I couldn't believe that it was working or that it could work. And so after that, I just kind of went insane, just modeling it out and writing about it. But yes, that's how I got to it.
So 2021's been an incredible year. What month was that, perhaps, that you stumbled across Olympus there?
Dude, I stumbled upon Olympus in May. Early May I found it, and then June 11th is when I bought. I did an insane amount of due diligence on Ohm and Zeus and the Discord. I just control F'd the hell out of the Discord. Basically read everything Zeus had ever said in the Discord. Oh, wow. And all of his podcasts, all of the articles. Just spent a long time, because I don't do sprinkled bets. I take concentrated bets, or I don't bet.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew that if I were to bet, I'd bet hard or I wouldn't bet. So, June 11th was the date when I made what is a heavy bet for me.
Yeah.
And I remember I had a hard time sleeping that night because I was like, dude, like, what have you done? but then I was like, I'm in now. Risk-free value was $5.2 million at the time. Market cap was $55 million at the time. So they were like different times, different moment. But yeah, it definitely felt like a big deal pulling the trigger on June 11th.
Wow. So that's definitely, quite the journey you've had from your own, companies and your own projects and passions to stumbling across Olympus there. Yeah, incredible.
Hey, Asfi, DiamondHands here, right? I'm DiamondHands Klima, by the way. So it's very interesting to be here right now to be doing this interview, and it's really an honor to have you here with us.
Oh, no, it's an honor for me. It's an honor for me to talk to you. I love DiamondHands Klima account. It's such a cool account.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So here am I. I just want to ask some questions about on the follow-up questions on you talking about OlympusDAO, right?
Yeah.
All of us here are all OMIs as well. And I understand that you actually, based on what I've learned, you actually did a lot of research before you dive deep into Olympus. So I just want to make sure that our listeners here also get to learn as well. Like, what were the metrics that we're looking for or you're looking at before you actually dive deep into a protocol like Olympus?
Yeah. So I think I've written, I think the thread that's kind of posted on that's pinned to my profile on Twitter that covers that, like how to do due diligence on an anonymous founder. Because for me that was pretty weird that it's an anonymous founder. But the things that were like things that I did, other than reading the docs multiple times and like making sure that I could understand them and putting the equations in Excel and see if I could understand how changes would get influenced on a particular equation. Other than doing those very obvious things, I think the meaty things I want to tell people are search for messages from the founder at inception and at key moments when the protocol was facing a stress test. Because at some point this thing will become fully on-chain governance and fully decentralized. Already it's very decentralized, but founder dependence is always there. So for me, that was a key one, right? Like just observing Zeus and how he responded to criticism and how he responded to market crashes, and what kind of energy he brought to a conversation. And the thing that I saw in that was that, he was definitely here to learn and to advance the conversation forward. He wasn't driven by some other, I would say, dark energy of which I don't want to get into, but it was very good energy that I saw in him. So that's the biggest one. And other than that, I think the other thing that's neat about due diligence with the other thing that I did was just hanging out with the contributors at the time on off topic, and just kind of getting a sense of what kind of contributions were they making, what was the conversation quality like. Those were things that I was doing. But also keep in mind, Olympus was really my first proper crypto investment. Like I had held ETH and I had held BTC just because everyone had it, and I hadn't thought too much about it. But I bought into Olympus a lot more than what I had put into ETH or BTC, right? So Olympus was my first real investment. So it was also very heavily due diligence. I may not do this for every project, but for Olympus, I just really went all out with the DD.
Yo, that's great. So to you, it was more of just to do a recap for those who are listening. So it's really more of how the founders actually address, you were saying market upsets. It could be also how they address FUDs, and how the community members or the mods are actually managing the culture itself really mattered, how well the protocol is going to perform.
Yeah, that's all that matters. In an open source world, you don't have any intellectual property. Your moat is the community. and it is people's ability to cooperate and band together and collaborate, and all of that happens based on like a culture that gets created, right? Like, I mean, I see
Yeah,
a
for
really
sure.
lovely culture getting created at KlimaDao in the work
Yep.
contributor server. It's like, I mean, and it comes across in the quality that you guys end up delivering, right? So yeah, I think I definitely look for that. I think that is the differentiator between like projects that'll really change the world versus projects that'll be kind of all right.
Yeah, in fact, for this podcast, right, the three of us, it was just like from talking about it, the ideation of it, to actually doing it. It took us like 5 days to have like an official podcast, and it was really crazy. Like, I've got to say, right, the energy here, the culture here is really, really, very, or rather, very similar to what Olympus is, right? Because ultimately, the founders himself, Archie himself, is actually from Olympus as well. I think he brought in the culture, and actually a mind opening, eyes, or rather, sorry, an eye opening experience for me as well. Like how fast things move, and you're right, like community is everything, and how we manage it and the culture really helps to propel the protocol itself to even more success.
Yeah, totally, man. Totally agree with you. And I think what I really like, or the other thing I really like about Klima as well is like it's just a very no fuss, positive energy, like, and I hope that always stays, right? Because I mean, a lot of us come to crypto because it's fun, and when collaboration is generally fun with people who don't bring drama to work, and that generally happens when people aren't territorial, and that generally happens when people are secure about their position or their contribution. Um, and I think a lot of that culture does get created by like the founding team and the core contributors. I agree. I mean, I'm a huge fan of Archimedes, and I mean the whole crew, Archimedes, Dionysus, like this is a really really excellent crew. And what I like just really love about Klima is that it was like, I mean, it's addressing a mission critical need. Like, I mean, I have not seen, I mean, I've worried as about climate change as much as you guys, but like I haven't seen such a compelling and simple thought, which is we're going to buy a ton of carbon credits, we're going to drive up the price of carbon, and that is going to make investments in carbon capture technologies feasible. We saw this mechanism, we've decided to apply it here. Boom, it's like so good and it's so simple. And yeah, I think I mean all the ingredients are there. I mean, that I'm like mega bullish on Klima, for that reason, because it's, and I find it interesting that like I think for me, what's been the most interesting thing, talking to institutions and family offices and high net worths about Olympus and Klima, is that Klima actually helps people understand Olympus better, because often they get Olympus, but then they're like, well, what do we use it for? Because there's still, for many of them, the idea of a decentralized reserve currency, particularly the ones in America, isn't that obvious. The ones in the developing world, they're like, okay, yeah, we get it. Independent monetary policy, independent of nation states, that's really cool. But for people in America, it's still like, why do we need that? But when you talk about Klima and the application on carbon markets, immediately you're like, oh, interesting, we get it. That this is powerful. You can buy a lot of carbon credits. That makes a ton of sense.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I think that, with Klima also, there's a strong argument for the developing world benefiting because by bringing these voluntary carbon units on chain, increasing the price in the traditional market, becomes much more profitable for someone in Southeast Asia, parts of Africa, to devote their land to carbon sequestration instead of other commercial uses.
I mean, there was one question I wanted to ask you about what makes Olympus so resilient, right? But I guess we already uncovered the answer, the question or rather, because of the community itself. So my next question is I like to think it's a little bit controversial. Like, all of us here are all Ohmies, and there's a lot of things of us that we love about Ohm, right? Or rather Olympus. But I want to put you at a spot. Like, what is that one thing that you wished was done differently?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think So I think I want to answer two things, right? Like what makes Olympus like resilient? I think the equations are like pretty powerful, right? Like the interplay between treasury greed, exit liquidity fear, and the ticking bond discount. It's very, very powerful. Like right now, I mean, we've talked about that. You guys may have seen that. For someone from Klima did a wonderful bank run simulation adaptation. What it comes down to is like 97% of the rewards in the treasury have not been paid out yet. And so if everyone sells, the last person standing lays claim to the treasury. That's very powerful. On the second one about what we could have done differently. I mean, this is just an opinion. It's not coming from the DAO or like. It's just. I mean, I generally. I mean, my tendency is always to like think about collaboration first. When I look at that, like the 350 odd forks have like 2.5 billion of total of treasury that they've raised. Over there, I feel like there was an opportunity maybe to do a deal, to do better deals, or to do to do deals with forks. I feel like that for me is something that would have, but it's so hard. Like it's only possible to say these things in hindsight. At the time, I mean, they were like, there was a lot going on inside the DAO and with all the forks launching. But that's one thing I wish I'd love to see, like more collaboration with forks saying, hey, let's 3-3, right? Like let's advance our causes together. Let's see how we can support each other, as opposed to discredit each other. And now that's a very hard balance because vast majority, or like I would say most of the forks were either fraudulent or they were, just badly executed. And so that trade-off's really hard, but like the person I am, I feel like that's one thing I'd love to see, like, more ways to like collaborate with people who want to create different versions. And I think we're seeing that now. I think like some of the, you saw the, the posts about redacted cartel and like some of these other forks that are like, a lot more, I would say, like doing like an upfront deal. I'm very happy to see that. I would have liked to see more of that compared to what we've done so far.
Yep, I definitely agree that there are definitely some. I mean, not all. I mean, this is also my own opinion, right? There are also definitely some folks that are trying to address a different issue, and I mean, of course, in the perfect situation, right, where I personally know that like Olympus has a lot of things on their plate, and it's really crazy on how many things they want to achieve. And if there's ever opportunity to have more partnerships, like look at us, like even though Klima is actually it's a fork of Olympus, right? But look at the success we have. We are a success case study, right? And definitely, if we have more of KlimaDAOs in that sense, whereby we address a different real life problem, right? And you have the support and the partnership with Olympus, right? We're going to definitely have a huge impact.
I totally agree.
And I totally agree that, so I totally understand where you're coming from, and that's something that I also hope to see a lot, or rather hope to see more in the future as well, because unfortunately, Fox of Olympus does dilute and dilute the reputation of Olympus, not just Olympus but also Klima as well, which it's kind of sad to see that, because it's like, your Olympus for or Olympus bad or Klima's bad or something like that, because that indirectly does affect our reputation. We without us doing anything, right? We just did that, and people just start forking us, and then we can't stop that from happening because it's open source, right?
No, you're totally right.
But definitely, if there's a way for us to do more, pay attention more to such forks that are able to partner with us, and who knows where we will become an even bigger Klima or bigger Olympus, right?
Totally.
Yeah. So this kind of iteration and forking just has led to incredibly rapid innovation, novel use cases, and lately we've seen the attempt to exert some effect on the outside world. We're seeing communities come up around NFT art, buying the Constitution, buying a struggling sports franchise. We're still waiting on the Toronto Maple Leaf DAO. But online communities aren't new. but what's new is them being able to build a treasury of their choosing, essentially becoming their own bank and market maker, owning their own liquidity. And, so KlimaDao, our focus is one of these strong communities that has formed around the issue of climate change. Our mission is to buy voluntary carbon offset credits, increase their value in the traditional market, making it more expensive to offset pollution, incentivize people to use their land for carbon sequestration instead of commerce. Asfi, this is an incredibly grand vision. This is not just buying a sports team. It's not buying the Constitution in an auction. This is trying to have a global impact on the carbon markets and help incentivize the solution to climate change. And so, I want you to take us back to when you kind of initially heard about Klima. What your thoughts were at the time. What were people talking about in the Olympus community? If you just kind of take us and illustrate that.
Yeah, I think it happened for me around early August, late July. I think this was the time I was just beginning to get a grip of how this whole thing worked. And I remember in off topic, someone mentioned Klima, and immediately I thought this is freaking amazing. This is amazing. This was my reaction, because I'm before I went on Internet for All, I was thinking about how to have an impact in the world, and obviously climate change was one of those topics. And I saw it and I thought it was the most obvious, brilliant idea. So I just I DM'd our committee saying, dude, this is great. Where are we at? So, I had just missed the IDO. And so he said, look, we still will do this liquidity bootstrapping LBP, the opportunity for you to pre-buy. And so I said, okay, amazing. I'll just buy into that. And so that's kind of at the time. To me, it was just a very obvious opportunity. And a lot of folks around me had said, oh, but what about this whole business of bringing credits off chain to on chain is so complicated. Will that even work? And my take was, dude, those are things we can figure out. The promise of actually creating something that can help us get to carbon neutral or carbon negative, and potentially have a fighting chance at a world not burning in 2050, which is not that far away. My thing with Klima wasn't will this work? It was what can I do to help it succeed? And that's kind of generally been my take with any project I've been involved in. And same with Olympus. It's I don't ask will this work? I'm how do we make it work? Because I'm at a point where I'm we better make this thing work because it's a damn good plan.
Yeah, I definitely felt that urgency as well, which I have never gotten involved in a protocol before. Mm-hmm. And so it just felt, and timing is part of it too, right? Being there in the right place, right time. Mm-hmm. I put out a few Twitter threads, and all of a sudden I'm in the contributor server talking, and now doing something pretty far from what I do in real life, mm-hmm. right? Mm-hmm. And it's just driven by this kind of belief that this is the right thing to do, this is the right mechanism, and so it's quite exciting, sure. And quite a big change. I wouldn't have thought that this would be what I'd be doing, 6 months ago.
Oh, same, dude, same. Yeah. It's pretty crazy to be doing what we're doing right now. But yeah, totally hear you.
So a lot of smart money sees that carbon markets have been underfunded for too long. Mm-hmm. The critical juncture we're at with climate change is recognized. We're at kind of a inflection point where some action may still avert, worsening climate crises around the world. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of these funds, family offices, they're seeing an opportunity to make a positive impact mm-hmm. through their ESG investing. I wanted to, talk about the genesis of WAGMI Labs, mm-hmm. which, stands for We're All Going to Make It, which is quite fitting. And, and I want to hear about the conversations you've had with funds and family offices.
Yeah, for sure. No, look, when I walked into Olympus, I wanted to pitch it to credit funds because I thought it was such a neat risk-adjusted return. And then same thing with Klima. I pitched Klima and Om to a bunch of institutions and family offices. I'm based in San Francisco Bay Area, so I have a number of people are like close friends who have these family offices. They're their own family offices, or they're like connected to people who have family offices. And I also personally know institutions because I kind of was in that world before in a past life. Their response was, "This is great, but make a C corp where we can write a check because this whole rebasing token and DeFi stuff, it feels complicated. I mean, we feel exposed to uncertainty around taxes, uncertainty around regulations, and all this, like, managing our own keys, it's a bit complicated. So can you do it for us?" That was the ask that I got. Initially, I wasn't that sure if I wanted to do WAGMI Labs, but then ran into some really cool partners. There are these two guys, they started 9 Realms, which is basically WAGMI for Thorchain. They'd done something very similar for Thorchain. And they said, "Hey, you should do this for Olympus and we can support you." And, one thing led to another. I met a really wonderful investor who totally saw eye to eye on how we wanted to run it, because our big thing was, this is a C corp in name, but we'll run it like a DAO, because I hate being CEO. I hate being managed, and I hate managing people. So I'm very much like an individual contributor. And I thought I wanted to run it like that. Investors agreed. And at some point I roped in Brian, who's the first OMI I ever met. Also roped in Banksy, who's a very key contributor, helped create the DAO, and also roped in these two guys who have created 9 Realms. And WAGMI was born. And now we're doing a hackathon to attract developers who can help Om and Klima ship products faster, because there's a lot of good Web 2 talent that is still stuck in big tech and doesn't know how to get out because they've got a full-time job. We think we can fill that gap by getting our revenue sorted and then hiring people full-time and then basically unleashing them on these protocols so that we can move faster.
That's incredible. Yeah. So let's dive into the hackathon a little bit. What I've read some of the ideas; they're exciting. Take us through what's your goal? What are you trying to create?
It really is just developer recruitment. I did not realize until a couple of weeks ago that we have a shortage of Solidity, Rust, C++, just developers, backend developers. We have a shortage of backend developers. That is what I want to address. That is what we want to address. At the same time, I mean, we also want to have fun and not make it like a dull recruiting event. So, right now there's like over, I think, 12 or 13 ideas that people have articulated. The one I'm pretty pumped about is Liquidity for Klima. It's Liquidity is a governance-free protocol that lets you borrow interest-free money at an upfront cost of about 0.5% of principal, and it gives you a stable coin called LUSD. I'd love to see that for Klima on Polygon, where you deposit S Klima or WS Klima and you get KUSD, just as a better borrowing option. I'm also really excited about this yield redirector, where we're saying, hey, Anchor protocol on Terra delivers a 20% return on stables. We would like to give users an option where they take, let's say, 10% yield in stables and redirect 10% of the yield to buy Klima or to buy Ohm. And as a way to like A, enhance their returns, and B, I mean, in the case of Klima, also then, be able to say that they are offsetting their own carbon footprint in a meaningful way. I think that's one really big opportunity that is completely untapped for Klima, that just demonstrating to people how owning Klima is actually resulting in them, like offsetting their own carbon footprint. So yeah, those are two big ones. There's a lot of other really cool stuff that's happening. There's a mobile app getting designed. For anyone listening, I mean, I'd encourage you to check out the hackathon server. We've got 350 people in. 71 developers have signed up. We are giving away $66,000. We're giving away a total of $100,000. 66,000 is in prizes. First place 33,000, second 22, third 11, and then we're also giving an airdrop to the first 100 developers of $333 for just participating and submitting something, even if they don't win. But they have to prove that they've made some meaningful contributions in the past and they participated somewhat. We're not like militant about it. I mean, I'm personally like on that server pretty much around the clock to see who's working on what. So we'll the idea was to like throw some money, do some airdrops, give some prizes, identify talent and talk to them and see, and also hopefully like show them a really good deal, right? Like, and so long as that deal advances the causes of this OlympusDAO ecosystem, which Klima is a really huge part of, that's a win. And that's kind of the unique sort of situation we find ourselves in at WAGMI Labs. Like all of the founders and the partners at WAGMI Labs, majority of our net worth is in Om and Klima. And so, if Om and Klima win, we win. So we're not looking for like any separate incentives through WAGMI Labs. WAGMI is literally like a vehicle which we're treating like a DAO in order to grow these protocols, because we have a very strong vested interest in growing these protocols, because like all our wealth is in these protocols. So it's just like this massive circular reference of sorts that we're in, and that's kind of how it's working.
Oh, that's excellent. So if people just want to, obviously you mentioned the server there in Discord. If people are just hearing about this for the first time, because they might not have caught your tweets and stuff, and we'll make sure to pin those in the show notes so they can discover them. But it's wagmi.inc, INK.
Yes.
That's how they can find the information they need?
Yes, they can. And also the Twitter handle is WAGMI Labs Inc. So it's WAGMI Labs and Inc. is INC.
Yeah.
WAGMI Labs Inc. is the Twitter handle. You'll find the Discord is linked in the description. And that's an easy way to find us. And also, the WAGMI.inc website, that also works.
Okay, no, that's perfect. And again, you talked about the the end goal of the hackathon, and it sounds like it's very much win-win-win, a win for the devs and win for Om and Klima, and a win for WAGMI as well too. Clearly,
for sure. That's the goal.
Again, to be a little bit provocative, as DiamondHands was before there too. With what you would have done differently or what you wish was different about Om, but in this case, you talked about that the challenge with talent. And isn't there a little bit of a catch-22 as well, that once people are, Solidity or Rust devs, they kind of, they have the keys to their own kingdom there. And, how do Om and Klima hold on to them when they kind of have that skill set?
Yeah, no, I think that's a great question. And I think my take is talent does not want to be managed. Talent wants to be unleashed. And talent has huge aspirations, and you can't try to pin aspirations and say, no, your aspirations should be a subset of my aspirations. I think anytime people try to pin down aspirations and say, no, I am the boss and yours will be a subset of mine, in this new world we're in, where capital is finding it easier and easier to talk to labor will say, no, dude, I'm going my own way and I'm going to create this. Right. So what we want to do is unleash talent and literally kind of get a bit ridiculous with the deal. Right. I don't want to, for me, WAGMI is an opportunity to be a bit ridiculous in terms of incentives. Like, literally, I do want to tell devs that, all right, I want to create situations where at WAGMI we can say, you can have a full-time salary, you can still create a project that you can have all the upside in. Go play. So long as it's creating a meaningful integration with this ecosystem which is emerging. And boom, that's kind of it, right? Like, my take is that's kind of all that I want, because I was I mean, personally speaking, and I think, maybe to great extent it applies to like some of my partners too. Like, at least let me just keep it personal for now. Like, I was kind of already in a relatively privileged position when I left my career in 2016, and even with the work that I've done, I was able to do it because Tower Share got acquired, and that was helpful in terms of having savings. And I found that, and I feel that more people reaching financial independence will help more and more humans self-actualize, and more self-actualized humans will give us a better shot at solving all the grand challenges we face, ranging from rising income inequality to climate change to the digital divide to too much plastic in our oceans, and like all the UN sustainability development goals, like clean drinking water, poverty, obesity, you name it, right? So my take is like, dude, maximize the number of self-actualized humans, and the way you do that is by literally like being extremely generous and just saying, make it rain on everyone, and like without getting greedy. And I want to do that. As much as possible. And that's why, like, we did things differently at WAGMI, like split equity equally. Brian and Banksy and we split equity equally. Noah and Gavin were advisors, so they got like 50% of ours, but that's because they were advisors. Otherwise, we did not take the view, or I did not take the view, which is like, I am the founder, or like, I have spoken to the capital, therefore I should have more equity. Like, no, I don't want to do that. It's like, distribute it. And that's kind of the mindset I'm in. And I think that's the mindset in my view, and I could be wrong. I mean, I've been told this many times before, but my take is this mindset will win in Web3 because we're in an open source world. Speed will matter. So long as you can really embrace win and help win, which sometimes is going to come at the cost of your own ego and your own power and your own sense of that I am the bigger person, therefore you need to be subservient to me. I mean, this is going to take us a while to get over those things. So long as that can be overcome, I think sky is the limit for any organization then. But yeah, that's the key thing to really overcome, in my view.
Yeah, well, that's beautiful. It does, like, it sounds again like that vision is, nurture it, grow it, reward it, and then give it away.
Yeah.
Like that you're letting that talent find its own way, find its own destiny.
Because I mean, it's painful holding talent back, right? Like it's also honestly, like I feel like hoarding equity or like hoarding power, it's an obligation, which is, I mean, there's a reason I keep going around saying I hate being CEO, or I don't want to be CEO, or I don't want shareholders, and I don't want employees, because control is an obligation. When you have like majority equity, or you have the largest equity holder, it's an obligation. It's not a privilege. It's a total obligation. That's how I've always viewed it. And I just find that from a life perspective, it's a lot more fun. I feel a lot more freedom when I have this deal, which is like, yeah, you guys, you be you, I be me. I don't want to chase after you, and like live an incredible life. I know it's super kumbaya and crazy, but I mean, I've been doing that kumbaya crazy my whole career, my whole life, and I've been told my whole career, my whole life, this is never going to work. You're being ridiculous. People will take advantage of you. But it's a calculated bet. Like, yes, some people absolutely do rip you off, but on the net, like, it's positive expected value, and so far it turned out like that. And so I plan to just keep playing the game exactly in that way, even as we go forward with WAGMI Labs.
Oh, that's awesome. So yeah, you're talking about your vision there and how that's worked so far, paying it forward, so to speak. But now let's imagine perhaps, I don't know, that that you've got a little bit of a time machine here. So if you take that vision forward, and like we're talking about Klima here, that's primarily our focus. So we'll be kind of Klima centric, but what do you see? Like if it's 2026, 5 years from now, what is the future?
Oh man,
what's the impact?
I'll tell you something hilarious about 2026. I put out a couple of tweets the other day about like the world in 2026. I was just speculating. And this one Omi who runs a publishing house, he was like, dude, you should do a book and I'm ready to help you publish it. So we are actually calling that book 33, like the world in 2033. And it's more like speculating what the world will look like in 2033, assuming, Klima and Om have done their magic. So that is like a more involved body of work that's in the works. But like I can, for now, for this show, just speculating. I think, I see us, I see Klima market cap in the multiple trillions, for sure. At the time, I see Klima, sitting on, I think my estimate was close to 1 billion tons of at least. That's kind of I done calculations now. I'm kind of forgetting. It was over 1 billion tons.
No, that's what I was going to ask too, because you talked about the calculations you did for Ohm. So these visions or your projections here, they're calculation based.
Yeah. The thing is, dude, I've taught financial modeling for 10 years, so I go back and forth between calculation and speculation. And I think what I was doing was, if I am trying to remember, I think somebody had asked me like, what's the market cap of Klima in 2026, and I just put out 4.5 trillion. But then I was back solving for like, what does 4.5 trillion mean? As far as the treasury, and I was like, okay, that's a $450 billion treasury, assuming a 10x multiple, and then assuming like a $50 per ton carbon price. So that's 9 billion tons. Okay, that's a lot more. 9 billion tons. On my take on the numbers right now, like when I first speculated about Klima around the LBP, I was thinking we will do 30 to 60 million tons in the first year. And this was me being very bullish, aggressive. Everyone kind of refers to me as the bull tard or the perma bull or like the ridiculous bull. I am like that. But like we did like 12 million in a month, right? So that's like annualized. That's 144 million, and I think we will accelerate. So I'm like, okay, year one, Klima is hitting 150 million tons. Year two, it should do more than that. Like it should probably be like it should double. So 300. So now we're at 450 million tons, and then year three onwards, like I think the acceleration should just continue. So 450 goes to 900, 900 goes to 1.8. I guess maybe like 4 to 5 billion tons is like imaginable in 5 years. Because that's just, I'm assuming, a doubling of like of the 144 benchmark. But yeah, no matter how we slice it, like I'm thinking, multiple billion tons, hundreds of billion worth of treasury and market cap, definitely in the trillions. That's how I see it. Yes, of course, there are like headwinds that could arise. The world may say we're done with the Paris Accord, or the world may say we don't buy into carbon credits anymore. My take is that's pretty unlikely, and that's a risk I'm willing to take. And at the same time, like, and there's obviously all the other risks, right? Like the treasury getting hacked and so on and so forth. But like my take there is, and this is kind of also where I'm at with Om, that even if the treasury is hacked, I'm not leaving, and I'll tell you why. Because because of you guys, right? Like, we have now found each other. We found a lot of capability. We've learned what each other's capabilities are. We've figured out what each other's values are. We found a way to connect with each other. We're distributed. We're global, and we're coordinating. This has not happened before, and I don't think a hack of a treasury or a change in like some, I don't know, regulation is going to stop us. Because I was talking to some Omis yesterday. They asked me this question about, what if the whole thing changes? And my thing was like, I'm going to lobby the crap out of it, right? Like I'll make sure. I'll go all out in terms of saying, all right, well, if here's the narrative that we need to protect to actually get to this outcome, then let's get there. Provided assuming that's still good for Mother Earth and like we actually address climate change, which is why we're all here. So
Yes.
So yeah, that's kind of my forecast, and also like more like not so much a forecast, but more like a target, right? I think for me, like I'm not thinking in terms of forecasts. I'm thinking more like, yeah, we should be a 5 billion ton treasury in 5 years. So like, how are we going to get there? And what can we do? Can WAGMI do things to help us get there faster? It's like, okay, bring more money and bring more tools. Okay, that's doable. And also like, raise awareness, like become a more effective lobbyist for these causes, and spread the
Yes.
word. And after that, we'll take it from there. I don't know what happens after that, but like that's generally how I operate. Like try to like make that dream. Zeus talks about it, like memeing things into reality, or meme your dreams into reality. That's
Mm.
I would say, more nicer way to say it. I used to always talk about like making like success a self-fulfilling prophecy. And so yeah, it's kind of like how I see it, this thing playing out, or how I'd like to see it play out.
That's excellent. Yeah, yeah. So it definitely sounds like the story of Klima is one that resonates with you for sure.
Big time, man. I mean, look, I'm a dad. My daughter's going to be 4 in about 11 days. And, if we don't do things today, she'll have a
Mm.
burning world by the time she is my age, right? Like, I mean, thousands of years ago, people would die at the hands of floods when they lived near dams, and when they lived near water bodies. It's only when they built dams and canals through large scale coordination that they were actually able to regulate river supply and actually feed themselves without dying. We are today like living alongside the same cyber river, which is this internet. No single nation can control it, and
Mm.
we need to use it to establish global coordination on things like climate change. Because the thing with things like climate change is you can't solve climate change without global coordination. It's like that river problem. I mean, if China agrees to something and India doesn't agree, we are not going to make it. And forever and ever and ever, we've always had to coordinate and transact with governments and intermediaries and archaic financial systems. Today, we have the ability to literally, like, send money through the ether, literally, and collaborate. Like there is, millions and billions of dollars worth of value we've learned how to coordinate on. And I mean, even this podcast is an example of global coordination, wherein we're different nationalities, we're in different locations, and we've we all see the light here of what Klima can do.
Mm.
I mean, this is grand. This is more grand than any startup I've been a part of. This is bigger than anything I've experienced, right? Like I'm sure it's similar for you guys, which is why you're here. So yeah, I mean, not only does it resonate, but like then when I think about these things, that's when I get hyper bullish and start like writing those threads about like trillion-dollar market caps, and everybody's like, this guy must be on something, which is why he's just completely losing it. But I mean, I believe all of that, and it reflects in my actions too. I'm all in on these two protocols. So
So I just want to jump in right now, right? So now we talk about, or rather, you talked about, the future of Klima, the future of Olympus. How about let's go to you. Like, what do you see yourself in 2033? Like, what's Asfi in 2033?
I have no idea. Oh my God. I hope I hope I'm not CEO of WAGMI, that's for sure. I hope I'm doing the same thing, kind honestly, contributing, writing. I mean, like writing, making financial models, hosting Twitter spaces. I'm very happy, dude, with my current life. Like, I get to work on what I want, when I want, with who I want with. And it's lovely in the sense like I'm very content with where things are at. I definitely don't want to be a big company CEO or anything like that, or like have like I don't those are not my aspirations. I'm kind of living my current aspirations, which is be able to just take an off day whenever I want and just walk in the park for 5 hours. I do that. I'm going to do that tomorrow. um I'd like to just keep doing that. And I hope that when we are in 2033, we will have other challenges, of course, but I hope we've overcome some of these very pressing challenges like climate change. I really hope and pray and, you know, like want to see that, like, at least by 2033, we're no longer on the back foot when it comes to climate change, and we're more like we have solved it. And now then we have another challenge. I don't know what that'll be, but it's like hopefully by then we're like, well, at least we have solved this, impending disaster. We've done it before, right? Humans have done it before. I don't know if you guys remember the ozone layer. It was depleting. There was a big, when I was in high school, we used to hear a lot about the ozone layer, and we fixed that. We did something. Humans got together. They fixed that ozone crisis. We can fix this greenhouse emission crisis. That's something I'd like to see. Other than that, I don't have any big, hope streams. I do want to see internet for all, for sure. I think, for me, the really big bug I have, other than climate change, is internet for all. The poorest person in the world should be able to access the internet. So that will require flooding the world with fiber. And I've got thoughts on how we can use Ohm to finance fiber networks, and then back Ohm with recurring telecom cash flows. That's a project in the works. That I hope I would love to have implemented by then. So I think if internet for all happens and we've fought off climate change, and I'm not expected to be CEO of any stupid company, and I can still take my time off and say stupid things online and just be a fool when I want to be. That's a win for me in my books.
That's excellent. Thank you so much, Asfi, for sharing your journey, and I think as well sharing, both, in my mind, it's the the left brain and the right brain reasons why you're bullish on Ohm and why you're bullish on Klima. It makes a lot of sense. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you very much.
No, thank you. Yeah. And I'm psyched about what you're building, and love that the efforts in KlimaDao are coming together. So keep me posted on how I can be helpful, and thank you so much for arranging this. I really enjoyed it.
Wow, what a great conversation. It's easy to see why Asfi's kind of, become one of the key gigabrains tied to both Olympus and Klima. I don't know about you two, but I was really impressed when Asfi was really talking about, the community and the strength of the community, and kind of his research and diligence that he did in looking at the, the Ohm server and seeing how Zeus was responding to crises and the strength of the community around that. So, again, just that's resonating for me just with what we've done here with this podcast in a few short days or weeks or whatever we're looking at right now. The community here at Klima is strong, no doubt, as well too. So that really struck a chord with me. How about you, Reg?
Yeah, I thought that him speaking about the resiliency of these protocols is so important when thinking about the possibility of exponential growth. It just, giving a protocol time to succeed is so important, particularly early on when volatility can be a factor. We're educating people about the community, what we're doing with KlimaDao. And so the resiliency just adds to the probability of success. And what struck me was when he was really kind of talking about the exponential growth of Olympus and the exponential growth of KlimaDao in his vision towards 2026. And it's difficult for us to conceptualize, but it makes sense that this is a real possibility given what we've already achieved in 6 weeks.
Yeah, those are some eye-watering numbers that he put out there, but he was backing it up, eh?
Yeah, I think so. And when you accumulate 1 billion plus units of carbon, let's just say, because there's going to be a diverse treasury by then, you have also increased the price of that carbon. So, the value of the treasury will be growing at a very quick rate when we hit that level of maturity of the protocol. So, like I said earlier, I'm thinking that I was bullish. Now I'm even more bullish. And I think that many of our community members may feel the same way. So a nice inaugural podcast.
Beautiful. DiamondHands, did you have a key takeaway?
Yeah, so I think the key takeaway, what I'm seeing right now, is, and I totally agree with Asfi, it's that the community, it's really the key driving factor, or rather the driving force that makes a protocol succeed. Just look at the three of us. We started off as just a random comment about, hey, let's just do Twitter Spaces just for the fun of it, right?
Yes.
And look at where we are today, right? We are having a podcast, an official podcast, and we are interviewing Asfi. And I believe, like, just the three of us, we look up to Asfi as someone that's a really intelligent advisor to many of us on Twitter Space. Not only that, between the three of us, I mean, we can't share anything right now. Like, if you guys are looking for the alpha, right, we have a lot of exciting guests coming soon.
Yes.
And, there are guests that we will never imagine that we will ever interview in our life. Like, the connections we have from the community is really amazing. And I think that's the reason why Klima and Olympus, it's doing so well.
Yeah, it's a great vibe going on, and definitely have some good vibes for the podcast here with our first episode. Great conversation. So as Asfi said, the hackathon is offering up some incredible prizes from WAGMI Labs there, but that deadline's coming up on December 8th. So be sure to hit up wagmi.inc. We'll have that link in the show notes, but that's wagmi.ink. And check out all the current proposals and get your submission and get going. As you heard too, there's compensation for that proof of active participation. So everybody's going to win if you're going to jump in there. So we'll have all that information, lots more, including links to Asfi's Twitter, where he hosts some excellent Twitter Spaces. All that stuff's going to be in our show notes. For everything Klima, make sure you're hitting up KlimaDao.finance, where you can stake, bond, and perhaps most importantly, find a link to the Klima Discord community. Join us. As a DAO, decentralized autonomous organization, Klima is community driven, just like this podcast itself. So join us, and you're going to find a great group of Klimates and plenty of opportunities to contribute and be an active Klimate too. On behalf of DiamondHands and Reg, we hope you enjoyed this conversation with Asfi. Thank you so much for joining us on this inaugural show. We're looking forward to saying hello once again on the next Planet of the Klimates.